Greetings, Bazi is no more, or how to read 26 fates from one chart. In our age of information, we all have free access to personal data of both famous and ordinary people with detailed biographies. This has never existed before in the known history of society. The existence of a large number of people born on the same date, but with different fates, has destroyed the traditional reading of Bazi. Today, it's easy to refute the validity of any chart interpretation, whether from ancient texts or concerning people alive today, simply by finding a dozen people born on the same date. And if there is a 60-year gap between them, the fates of those born on the same calendar day appear drastically different. Accordingly, the conclusion is inevitable. Standard methods of interpreting charts no longer reflect reality. If you're tasked with reading the fates of 26 people born on the same date, you will never be able to describe them relying solely on classical texts, accounting for all the nuances of different destinies and lives, without contradicting the classical Bazi descriptions themselves. And if someone tries to give such a description using the classical approach, it will be more of a justification than a real interpretation. And it will sound like this. The destinies of people born on the same date are different because they have different hours of birth. That's the standard excuse. They were born in different countries and cultures. They were born into different families, different national characteristics they have different feng shui, different historical eras, the interval can be 60 years, different climate conditions, and so on. But then, what's the point of Bazi if it turns like a weather vane under the wind of change? Different times, circumstances, birth conditions, and so on. Then it turns out that no one in the world can read a person's fate using Bazi. The large number of people with the same birth date makes Bazi and astrology-based analysis and predictions quite dubious. Their services are no longer needed, since they do not reflect reality. If someone disagrees, I invite you to read the chart of 26 people born on the same date without using the justifications listed above. I also suggest, if your date of birth matches that of famous people, book a consultation with a Bazi practitioner or astrologer, listen to what they tell you, and then name those people to the consultant. And watch how they squirm. Information is the killer of any science and faith. I have now tried to make the task of reading identical charts as difficult for myself as possible. The goal is ultimately to find a simple and easy solution to this challenge. So then, here is the Bazi chart for March 22nd, 1929 and March 7th, 1989. This chart requires chi of the weak stages. It is precisely through the need for weak stages and their attraction into life that I analyzed this chart in 2 articles, using the example of the fate of the artist Yayoi Kusama. The lives of people born on this date are more influenced by the chi that is not in the chart. I analyzed Kusama's Bazi from the perspective of the influence of absent weak stages. This discovery was made and described by me in 2019 in the book The Secrets of Bazi or the Style of Formlessness and my social media pages for the first time in the Bazi world. I am the author of the method Movement of Missing Key, as well as the method I'm now going to speak about. You can find more details of Kusama's reading in my channel and the two articles. The first, the Bazi of the artist Yayoi Kusama, and the second, Yayoi Kusama's Bazi Addendum, Authorial Features of My Reading Style. Again, I'm the author of the method Reading Identical Charts with Different Fates using Comparative Analysis. People born March 22, 1929. Kusama Yayoi, famous Japanese artist. Fred Anderson, outstanding American tenor saxophonist. Ramli, talented Malaysian film director, actor, composer, and singer. He held the title of Malaysia's Great Actor in 1978. That was never awarded to anyone else. Georgy Bagaturia, Soviet and Russian philosopher, one of the world's leading Marxism researchers. Morris Drucker, the American cartoonist and comic book artist. People born on March 7, 1989. Ottavia Mazza, Italian model and bodybuilder. Gina Rio, known as the most spoiled woman in Britain. Ashley Slack, stylist and colorist, wife of an American TV host Jason Walter. Adriana Lukic, English language content and creator and teacher. Diana Gomez, Spanish actress. Anton Speaker, German actor. Vladislav Zhuravlov, the actor of Vitebsk Drama Theater. Anna Karmakova, actress of the Novosibirsk Theater. Daria Makarova, Russian actress. Artyom Korolev, Russian TV host and MTV presenter. Sergei Morozov, producer of Klaxon Production Studio. Kento Nagayama, Japanese actor. Anna Sinovskaya, singer, model and actress. Elena Potsepkina, screenwriter. Lilia Rezakova, Russian actress. Margarita Burkovskaya, actress. Zvezdan Vidakovich, Serbian hockey player. Natalia Dianska, Russian volleyball player. Ekaterina Davidenko, Russian handball player. Galina Nichkasova, Russian biathlete. Evgeny Sidorin, Russian speedway racer. So, in front of us we see 26 people with the same date of birth but different fates. And we have to do something with this. And not just us, but the entire Bazi world. Why read identical charts? Before you start, you must determine what kind of goal you want to achieve. If you're consulting a client and need to solve his life problem, that's one thing. If you want to describe the fates of all these people using one chart, it's another. If you're writing an article about someone's Bazi, that's the third thing, but may have no relation to real fate reading. If you want to understand the underlying pattern and see the invisible thread connecting these fates, that's something entirely different. Only a genius in Bazi can extract a unified structure from them that can be used to clarify other similar cases. This is fundamentally different from the above points. 5. If you want to demonstrate that the current Bazi system and its methods of teaching do not lead to the desired result, do not meet the needs of our time, and do not reflect the reality of human destiny, then the approach will be entirely different than the previous points. So, the ways to use and read identical charts will depend on the goal you set. According to the methods for reading identical charts will also differ. In any case, you must understand whether you want to see patterns in the fates of these people or consult a client using such a chart. You must find both the common and the different in all of these fates. You must also understand that each case of reading multiple fates from the same date will have its own internal pattern. Each time you're decoding the riddle anew, and there will never be a universal rule, except for a few things that I will mention here in part. I have noticed that everyone avoids comparing large numbers of identical charts. And if they do, they don't compare more than 2 or 3 fates, and even then, with the justifications listed above and general life scenarios. But practically, I've concluded the more identical charts I have to analyze and read at once, the easier and better I understand them, because all these charts are connected by a single thread. And the more people born on one day, the more clearly this becomes visible. The key to reading the fate will lie in 1 or 2 charts of elder people with outstanding destinies. Or if they were all born on the same day and year, the reference point should be the person with the most vivid and noticeable fate. In our lives, hierarchy exists everywhere, and this principle can be used in bazireading too. We can use it. I build a hierarchy from the most famous and talented person to the ordinary one. And then I understand what qualities remained unrealized and exist in potential at the lower levels of this hierarchy that I've constructed. This hierarchy does not exist in society, it's in my mind. And I will teach you this in my course. The rules of the game within this hierarchy will always vary slightly. Everything depends on the type of charts and destinies of the interconnected people. Take note that the people born on March 22, 1929 are mostly talented and even brilliant, unlike those born with the same bazi on the same day in 1989. Why so? I've thought about this for a long time, and here's what I've come to look at: programming and modern computer technology, at programmers and IT specialists, especially the outstanding ones, those who are now creating artificial intelligence that will later replace all programmers. Now look to the future and consider what programmers and IT specialists will be like in about 30 years, when the entire system is already built and stabilized. Future programmers will be a pale imitation of the current ones. They won't even understand how the system works, because even housewives will be able to create programs and the skill of programming will become devalued. The most outstanding people in any science always appear at the dawn of that science. For example, the physicists at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th centuries, there were many directions that no longer exist today. They were pushed out by competition, and the names of the great physicists are forgotten. The name Nikola Tesla alone is worth a lot. Later, as a science becomes established, there are fewer greater people, and the number of copycats increases exponentially. Copycats are dogmatic and narrow-minded people who move along well-worn paths. Now look at Bazi. Modern Bazi readers, compared to the ancient ones, are mostly copycats, because they don't have to solve strategic problems. Most of them when the science enters the era of copying, it begins to die. Copies cannot adapt it to solving current problems. They only protect their territory of material benefits. I think we shouldn't be like that. Any copying is the death of science. Any copying is the death of creativity. Even mediocre artists today can copy the great masters of the Renaissance, but it will be just a copy. Many people born in the late 1980s, 1990s, and later find it difficult to create anything new due to the excess and variety of everything in the modern world and the specifics of modern education. In cinema, we mostly see copycats now, for instance. A copyist will never surpass a creator. Artificial intelligence will eliminate all the copyists. They will no longer be needed. This flood of information with identical birth dates, I've turned this into a method of reading, and I've been working on this method for a long time. It is a part of the course Reading Charts Using Comparative Analysis. Without such a method, chart reading becomes some useless occupation, because any chart interpretation is refuted by the abundance of identical birth dates, which cannot be interpreted by the usual method with fixed, outdated templates. Reading identical charts or using large numbers of same-date charts as a method of reading is impossible with traditional Bazi, because over time it became too rigid. And in the ancient Bazi system, this task did not exist. It was not built for that. That's why I called my Bazi reading style the style of formlessness. To use identical charts as a method of reading, one must go beyond forms, meanings, and rules. A rule is just a tool that changes depending on the specific case. But Bazi has its foundation and experience laid down in antiquity, and that's the foundation of this science, and we must rely on it. When some specific situation arises, we must see the pattern in it, understand why it arose, and determine what rules follow from this situation in order to resolve it. In my school, I teach not only Bazi, but most importantly, a way of thinking. In the way of thinking that solves the problem, not just Bazi. Over time, I will demonstrate that. Analyzing many fates of people born on the same date, I use this as a method for reading one particular chart I need. This method shows how one and the same date of birth in people born on the same day, even 60 years apart, are connected by one single invisible thread. As consultants, we need to understand and see that through. It is impossible to do this chaotically without a system. If the mind has nothing to rely on, it will be chaotic. Seeing all these fates born on the same day, we are looking for the one fate that will be a benchmark of achievement, positive or negative, as well as the key to reading all the rest. Then the similarities will be visible, and most importantly, we will see the reason for the differences in these fates, how they're connected with each other, and what those differences are based on. In our case, we will take those born on March 22nd, 1929 as the benchmark. The female benchmark will be the artist Kusama Yayoi. The male benchmark will be the saxophonist Fred Anderson. It should be noted that none of those born on March 7, 1989 have reached their level of talent, mastery, social position. This shows that a different time has arrived, a time of freaks and copycats. For example, Atavia Matsa, a female bodybuilder, is an example of clearly attracting the weak life stages of the elements, a case of denying the feminine nature, the female principle, the roots of which lie in the family. A woman's strength is not in her muscles, otherwise armies would consist only of women. Ginarito, overfed with an excess of wealth, and as we say, goes mad from fat. This is also a manifestation of the weak life stages of the elements. They differ greatly from people born in 1929. For example, saxophonist Fred Anderson honed his skills all his life. The weak stages were manifested in his unusual and unique style of playing, which stands somewhat apart from all the music of that time, if even ours. Ramli, a famous Malaysian film director, actor, composer, and a singer, he played many instruments. He was so talented that his compatriots envied him and created all sorts of obstacles, while foreigners respected and paid attention to him. His whole life showed that he strove to take a leading, strong position, and as if unwilling to accept the flow of qi in his chart. This chart requires the manifestation of weak life stages, and this must be reflected in life. It is better if it occurs in the form seen with Kusama Yayoi and Fred Anderson. Otherwise, Ramli died at age of 44 under strange circumstances, which is a manifestation of the weak stages of elements in his destiny. By the way, even Google honored his 88th birthday in memory of Ramli's talent. Both digits are sacred, actually. Ashley Slag, born on 7th March 1989, the wife of American TV host Jason Walter. The weak stages were manifested in her life with an alcoholic husband. According to Walter, he recovered and now helps others. A recovering alcoholic is like a time bomb, especially if he's an actor. Most people born on the 7th of March 1989 have not reached the full potential of their abilities because their realization must go through a bright anomaly, like Kusama Yayoi. Otherwise, they live in a smoldering mode. If someone with such a chart comes to me for a consultation, I will explain how to move through the anomaly, through the weak stages, and if they move traditionally and manage to realize their talent fully, then the probability of a life ending like Ramli's is quite high. This cannot be seen through traditional bazi. The anomaly is the thread that connects all those with such a bazi. Therefore, people born on the 7th of March 1989 are either anomalous in their success or live at less than full strength. As I have already said, those born on the 22nd of March 1929 are very talented. This group includes cartoonist Maurice Drucker. His life and career resemble the lifestyle we're used to. His fate stands out from the general trend of those born on this date, though he is undoubtedly talented. However, on the internet another birthday is listed 29th of March, so he may have been a different bazi. Georgi Bagaturia, Doctor of Philosophical Sciences, one of the leading researchers of Marxism in the world. A talented and hard-working man, he has 50 years of scientific and pedagogical experience at Moscow State University. He chose a very rare field of activity for most people, even for the Soviet era. Very few people in the world are engaged solely in this field. It should be added that almost all of the above-mentioned people born 22nd of March 1929 lived over 90 years. Later, Kento Nagayama, Japanese actor born on the 7th of March 1989, was arrested for possession of 1.7 grams of marijuana. After the scandal, the television company he had a contract with cancelled it. This is also a manifestation of the weak stages for this chart. Note the same situation in life with a different chart would not necessarily indicate weak stages, because every chart is individual. This arrest incident can also be viewed as an anomaly in his life. Many actors born on this date are little known and mainly appear in minor roles. What does this indicate? It tells us about the attempts at copying, mimicking, and an inability to express a real talent because their career paths must go through a vivid anomaly. If this doesn't happen, the tendency toward weak stages will manifest through gloom, dullness, and oblivion. Jenny Sidorian, born on the 7th of March 1989, a speedway racer, an interesting character. What makes a person risk their lives? They need to weaken strong stages. By the way, many stuntmen are prone to suicide and depression. This is well known. People born on the 7th of March 1989, volleyball player Natalia Dianskaya, handball player Ekaterina Davidenko, biathlete Galina Nechkasova, these women chose a really atypical form of self-expression for the female gender and are international level athletes. All of them are hardworking and talented, but as I mentioned before, a woman's strength is not in muscles. For a professional female athlete, the feminine principle is suppressed, especially during active sports careers. Strong yang always requires yin. This is a topic from my third course. Strong stages require weak stages, and for women, this may manifest as a suppression of their feminine essence, although in the case of these athletes, it is not as pronounced as with Ottavio Mazza. What do we see? A woman building her muscles, a bodybuilder, also a volleyball player, handball player, biathlete. All of these can be seen as an anomaly for the normal biological existence of a woman. We should all remember what has always been the norm for human beings here. At the beginning of the 20th century, namely in 1929, a similar anomaly, like that of Kusama Yayoi and friend Anderson, could be expressed only through talent. Otherwise, society would not perceive and accept you. Now, such an anomaly is manifested through scandals and shocking behavior without any single talent. From this, we see that the charts in different 60-year cycles will be interpreted somewhat differently. What is the thread that connects the charts and the destinies of the people mentioned above? The need to express oneself through anomaly. A vivid example being the artist Kusama Yayoi. When you look at the client's chart with the same birth date, you will understand the direction in which they can develop. And this direction is through anomaly. A talented one, really, through non-standard behavior. Now let's take a quick look at the charts of Henry Kissinger, Alina Kabaeva, and Mikhail Raduga. It is immediately evident that these charts have great potential. Therefore, Kabaeva always had a chance to achieve great heights in the society, and she actually realized it. On the same date, were born actors Donald Greason and Gaston Bertolucci and the Soviet writer Nikolai Yegorov. Also born on this date are other actors and athletes, and all of them are connected by a real thread, the key to which is the Bazi and the destiny of Kissinger. How to read and understand this connection, what it is based on, and why their destinies are such? The answer is in my fourth course, Forecasting Historical, Political, and Economic Processes in the World through the 60th Jiazi, 60-year and 12-year cycles. How does Raduga's chart and destiny differ from those of Henry Kissinger and Aline Kabaeva. This is a very interesting case to read, especially if their charts are read together. The facets of both destinies unfold much more broadly than when reading only one chart. My students who have taken the 4th course understand this quite well, and it includes a method of reading such a situation. To put it very briefly, Mikhail Raduga's chart is a chart of triumph, while the charts of Henry Kissinger and Alina Kabaeva are the charts of struggle. Why so? The answers is in the 4th course. I will also explain this in the upcoming course, Comparative Analysis in Bazi. The focus of attention on identical charts should be through the fate you want to read. I repeat, I use identical charts as a method to read the necessary chart, and then obstacles and interpretation immediately become helpers in reading the client's chart. I will be teaching this in my course, Comparative Analysis of Charts. The Bazi we knew, I believe, no longer exists. Many will again object. Different life circumstances, therefore different fates. But then it turns out that the chart is the same, yet lives and destinies are different, because the person grew up in different social and family conditions. From this, it can be concluded that social conditions change the nature of the interaction of elements in the charts according to Usin and 12 stages of life elements. That is, secondary conditions change the primary basis of life. But that is absurd. This cannot be, or something is wrong with Chinese metaphysics or with our perception. All human knowledge is created as a temporary theory that satisfies society's need for knowledge for a certain period. When the system of theories and views no longer satisfies society's need for knowledge, it must be either improved or changed. For example, Rutherford's planetary model of the atom is just a theory, but the atom is not arranged that way. It met certain needs in the 20th century, but now it is outdated, and a new theory is needed. The same goes for the Einstein's theory of relativity and many other views in physics and beyond. The universe was not created according to the description of Bazi Chinese metaphysics. Bazi is just a certain view of the universe and human fate through the theory of the 5 elements. Some interpretations of this view are now outdated and require a new perspective adapted to modern conditions. Behind this stands the science, a vast centuries-old experience, and so it needs to be adapted to current conditions. But Z, in its current form, no longer meets the needs of society and cannot reflect the true state of human destiny in the modern world. If you disagree, please read 26 destinies based on one birth date and demonstrate this reading system based on an ancient texts and classical Bazi. I am not familiar with or I have never met masters who have a coherent system of reading many destinies from one chart, rather than the same reading variant justified by saying the birth hour was different, or feng shui was different, or the society was different, and so on. The chart reading system must be without the standard excuses mentioned above. Otherwise, the Wu Xing system and 12 life stages of the elements must change due to external conditions. Feng Shui, different culture, society, upbringing in the family, and this is impossible actually. I repeat, Primary conditions cannot be changed by secondary ones. Bazi is read using primary conditions. So the old Bazi is gone. It was killed by statistics and a large number of identical charts, and now the use of repetitive templates and rules is no longer possible. Even the same chart. One time the rule works and another time it doesn't correspond to reality and doesn't reflect the actual destiny of a person. Consider this my personal opinion, but one that cannot be refuted. And if you want to try, read 26 destinies from one birth date. Long reflections on this problem have led me to create my Authorial Style, and in April 2019, at an altitude of 4,000 meters in Tibet in the Katok Monastery, its name was born, the style of formlessness. Now you understand why it's called that. Thanks to my style and based on a large number of information about people born on the same date, it became possible to quite accurately understand the chart and select the most suitable recipe for actions or life options. This method will become a useful tool that will be successfully used alongside Usin and the 12 stages of elements. Based on my author's Bazi reading style and numerous identical charts, I have created a course where in real time I will read students' charts using Bazi of other people born on the same date. And for those present at the course, it will become clear that this method reveals aspects of their life that were unknown or poorly understood, and that can be developed in potential. I'm sure that in the near future, without such a method of comparative analysis, reading charts will become impossible. Those who study this method at my school and begin to master and develop it with me will stand at the origins and become the pillars of this method, which will prolong the life and history of Bazi for several more centuries. Please write comments. I will be happy to chat with you. Please, if you like my video, please like it, and I wish you a successful exploration of Bazi, and goodbye.